So our next storyteller is a librarian, a teacher, a mom of two, and she's a first-time storyteller who has been practicing on her dog Fern, who is a really good listener. Please give it up for Jo Gadsby.
Dig, if you will, the picture.
So I feel like I've spent most of my life trying not to get pregnant. I'm maybe what you call aggressively fertile. Twice in my early 20s, I got pregnant and found myself reaching for that phone number we all passed around. Twice making an appointment for that anonymous brick building. Twice raising $300 in 90s money, finding a ride, and then counting down the days till it was time to go get the DNC. The first time, I ran into a friend at the clinic. So if I'm making this sound all too ordinary, that's because it was. And then some 13 years later, I'm having the first kid at 34. A couple more years go by, I'm 36, I'm officially high risk as a pregnancy, and I'm watching the nurses all write AMA on my paperwork. Advanced maternal age, like I graduated from something. Thank you. And then my second kid is not quite 2 when I get pregnant again. Unplanned, unwanted, and at this moment I'm feeling like the language is really inadequate to describe this moment because yes, it's unplanned and you can talk about that with people because, you know, maybe you didn't plan it, but you still want it, and then there'd be a baby and this is an easy conversation. But you start using words like unwanted, undesired, accidental, and people are just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to feel. So I'm 38. My spouse is out of town, and I'm a little bit late. So I lock myself in my bathroom, and of course my 2 kids are pounding on the door, like, just a minute, taking a pregnancy test. You just hold on, I'll get you a waffle. And then, shit, it's time to go get that third abortion. Except this time I don't have that phone number to pass around. I don't have that network anymore. And I actually looked up the clinic where I'd been in my 20s and saw that it had been permanently closed. So what do I do now? I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I'm all about handling my business. Okay, shout out, everybody. So, these kids still need breakfast. They need to go to daycare. Get myself to work and immediately say my hellos and then lock myself in an empty conference room like a grown-up. It's time to figure this out. I start by texting a friend whose wife is a nurse practitioner. Maybe she has some advice. Their clinic doesn't do abortions because they get federal funding, so they can't. Okay, well, I know somebody who went to a place up the street about 10 years ago, got the abortion pill. I call that place, and they can't hang up on me fast enough, so something's changed. I call my doctor, pretty much the same reaction. Nope, click. And at this point, I I come across a lovely network of women's health clinics that have a centralized scheduling hotline, a location in Baltimore. I finally got my appointment. And when I told people this story, they asked me, why didn't you go to Planned Parenthood? And I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. I've used their services in the past. I've gotten birth control there and checkups, but I don't know if I even considered it. And something nags in my head that they've had to get a little too good at playing down their abortion services, right? Which is a shame. But also, my last abortion was in 1996, so I've got this 20th century working knowledge of abortion, and I didn't think to Google it. I didn't think to Google abortion, which would have led me right to them had I thought of it, right? And, I'm a librarian. I'm a professional Googler, so I was a little bit embarrassed that I hadn't thought of it. But what did I do? I turned to my informal networks. I was freaked out, and I started asking around, where did you go? Who do you know? Who's got that phone number for me? And, as a librarian, we know this about information-seeking behavior, that people turn to people they trust. They will ask someone they know. We'll use our informal networks, our informal communities, before we go to what would be more reliable sources, right? And so at this point, I've got my appointment, and I'm thinking about, how I got this information, laughing about it a little bit, but ultimately it doesn't matter, right? I go to work the next day, and the bleeding starts. So the flow's a little bit heavier, the cramps are a little bit more painful than normal, but otherwise it feels really ordinary. Like, how many times has this happened before and I just didn't know about it? And again, at this point, the language really feels inadequate. Like, it starts to fail me because I think technically I'm having a miscarriage, but it doesn't really feel that way. Like, it feels too slight. And again, when I start talking to people about it, their faces fall, and then I have to scurry in with like, no, it's a good thing. I didn't want this baby. I'm so psyched to be having a miscarriage right now. Like, there's no good way to talk about it. And so, I'm having this like more out of the ordinary period now, and I decided to go home early. And I picked the kids up, we're driving home, and they want to stop at the farmer's market. Okay, fine. And we're walking around, and they want to get dinner there. Sounds good, let's do it. So we get some pizza, and we're sitting in the grass, and I'm really enjoying being around all these other adults at this point, even if we're not having a conversation, they're just there, it makes me feel better. And I'm starting to bleed through my pad into this nice lawn, and I decide, I'm just gonna let myself feel all these feelings. I feel relieved, but I'm also so pissed off. I'm so pissed off at my partner who has been dragging his feet on getting the vasectomy. I'm so pissed off at every one of these numbers that I called that couldn't give me a hint of a referral. I'm just so pissed off at all of these old white men who have regulated us into this nonsense situation once and for all, right? Like, I'm just so pissed. Which is a good look for the farmer's market, right? Sitting there just being bleeding and pissed off. It's nice. And I'm a middle-aged, middle-class, white cis lady with insurance. Like, this is as privileged as I get. And every step away from these resources and privileges, this gets even harder, right? What should be an ordinary interaction gets even harder. Like, hello, I need an appointment so someone can watch me take a pill in a doctor's office. Why? Why is it so hard? And recently, the now 5-year-old woke me up at 6:45 a.m. on a Saturday to say, Mommy, do you have a vagina? Because he's polite enough to whisper, but not polite enough to leave me alone, right? So I can't roll over and say, yes, good morning, because the questions just keep coming. I mean, there's an onslaught. And it actually turns into this really beautifully nuanced conversation. Yes, I have a vagina. Yes, you came out of that vagina. No, not all mommies have vaginas. Some people have vaginas, but not babies. Some people have babies, but not vaginas. Could we talk about this at like 8:30? I would love a cup of coffee if we're gonna keep going in this vein. And then I find out later, at 6:43 a.m., he had gone to my spouse's side of the bed first to ask if it was true that mommies pee out their babies. Fair. Once he found out that there's this other opening called the vagina, he comes over to my side of the bed to confirm, right? Because he's using his informal networks to ask his really ordinary questions, right? So let's keep doing the same and bring all these answers out into the open. Thank you.